Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Neville Cousins. I'm the Special Projects Lead at Bethesda, and I'm also responsible for the digital and ITO initiatives within Bethesda. Welcome to this third Digital Insights webinar, where we will be discussing the interesting topic around artificial intelligence. And we'll address some areas into automation and possibly even robotics. We'll see how things go. But welcome to everybody. And if you're listening to this recording, then we welcome you as well. And hopefully this will be an insightful session. Just to give you some insights into what we're going to be covering. I'm going to start off with an overview of Bethesda, where it will just be a few minutes that I'll just give you an introduction of who Bethesda is, what we focus on, what our plans are at a high level for 2021, and then we'll get into the introductions of our panel members. Now, I'm quite excited about the panel that we have on today. That's going to be really exciting. For the first 20 minutes of that panel discussion, each of the panelists will be introducing themselves. In that time, please, if you can post questions that you would want us to address, because as we lead into the second half of the program, we're going to be having an open discussion with the panelists. And if there are any questions from your side, we'll gladly respond to those. And then we'll close out approximately just before 11 o'clock. So if you have any meetings that follow this, we'll let you go well in it before you need to be into your next session. So as far as Bethesda is concerned, Bethesda is the industry body for an association for the global business services in South Africa. We represent some of the largest BPOs, contact centers, and at this point in time, we're moving into also addressing the IT outsourcing, and also the digital industries within South Africa. So Bethesda fulfills its role by providing market information and research on the one hand. We also work actively on the supply side, looking at skills development and the upliftment of South African population into the world of digital and technology. And then on the demand side, we're actively involved in growing the industry, in attracting international business to South Africa, and making sure that South Africa is positioned well in the global market as a provider and a supplier of high quality global services. If you look in a nutshell, then Bethesda provides our members and stakeholders the insights and support to succeed. If you look at the year where we're in, I mean, it's a very tough year, it's very difficult. The one thing that Bethesda has set itself targets for is to grow the number of jobs and grow the opportunity within our industry. We've had a remarkable success over the last 4 years with a growth of around about 24% year on year over the last 4 years. Obviously, the COVID has had an impact, but we anticipate that in this year going forward, we'll be back on track and to create around 500,000 jobs by 2030. The areas that we focus in fall in a number of areas. BPO has been the traditional area where Bethesda is focused. Our target markets for attracting business to South Africa is mainly the English-speaking countries. the UK, US, North America, Canada, Australia, and then other English-speaking initiatives up into Africa is a target that we will start focusing on. In the niche shared services environment, we're showing a lot of growth, specifically in legal processes, knowledge services, finance and accounting, and human resources. And we'll continue to grow these. We believe that the scope in these areas is quite significant, and there's a huge opportunity for South Africa to present these types of services to our international clients. Then reshoring and domestic activity. A lot of companies in South Africa have over the years offshored high quality business and to low cost destinations. And we're in the process of putting programs in place that will start looking at reshoring these jobs back into South Africa. The area that I'm focused in, which is a new area, is around the development of the digital and ICT outsourcing, ranging from technical support, administration of systems, testing, data services, and then up into the advanced services where media design, cloud engineering, and obviously what we're going to be discussing today is around analytics and data and machine learning, artificial intelligence. And then also in the personalized services, lifestyle services, education, online training is becoming quite popular. So in a nutshell, Bethesda is set and is focused on growing the South African market in areas where services can be delivered remotely, both to clients in South Africa, but then predominantly to clients that exist outside of Africa or South Africa. And then the question that we've been posing in this series, and it will be a question that we will continue to focus on in this series of webinars, will be, can South Africa attain the status of a leader in the delivery of IT outsourcing and digital services? And so as we continue in this series, this is the question that we'd like to answer, and that we'd like to actually just, motivate that, of course, we believe that South Africa can do this. We just need to all come together, and we need to be focused in absolutely attaining this status. So with that, I'm going to move over into the panel discussion. And the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to be introducing our panel individually. And then I'll give them an opportunity to just introduce themselves properly and to talk about their area of expertise. What I'm excited about today is that I believe at the end of this webinar, we would have demonstrated the ability that South Africa has to absolutely step into that leadership position when it comes to application development, product development, providing world-class applications, but then also at that thought leadership level where South Africa can distinguish itself in its unique approach to how we approach business problems and how we solve these complex problems that the world is facing in this time. And I believe South Africa can play a significant role in that. And as I say this, I'm thinking of our first panel member, Johan Steyn from IQ Business. Johan, I haven't been able to track down a specific job title for you, which means that you probably do just about everything that you need to do at IQ Business. But Johan is a technologist, a management consultant, a business development specialist at IQ Business, is an artificial intelligence enthusiast and speaks globally at conferences on the fourth industrial revolution and emerging technologies. Now, the Wealth and Finance magazine awarded Johan the best AI and robotics consultant in 2019. He's published author who regularly contributes articles and thought leadership to well-known publications, the chair of the special interest group on AI and robotics with the IIT-PSA. So welcome to the panel today, Johan, and I'd just like to, hand over to you and just take some time and introduce yourself and just your views on AI and where you think it's going. And well, I'll just leave it over to you, Johan. Take us away.
Well, thanks for that introduction, for the opportunity. I just want to confirm, are we just doing intros now? These are not the 6-minute segments yet?
This is the 6 minute. This is your 6-minute opportunity, Johan. So
okay.
Please, then we'll reconvene at the half an hour.
Okay, super. Morning, everyone. Welcome. The topic we are all speaking about today is very exciting and it's very relevant. So the work I do at IQ Business is, even though IQ Business does management consulting in the technology space across a lot of different service levels and different aspects of technology delivery, my focus is on automation. So robotic process automation, intelligent automation, and I'll get to the differences in those things. So it's advisory, helping clients with their strategy. And then there's also an element of implementing the strategy with our clients. Now, the question we ask today is, can SA compete on the world stage with AI and automation? And the answer for me is absolutely yes. And the speakers following me, Querbus and Ryan, who have built 2 homegrown technology organizations that is world-class, is evidence of that. There are some amazing AI and related providers in our local market. I think we're also uniquely positioned if you think from a time zone point of view. If we think of English-speaking Europe and even the US for that matter. In our own organization, we also deal with French-speaking Africa. And I think our rates to clients are very competitive with the rates from India and the Philippines, other offshore areas. So if we get our act together, and I'll talk about that now, we can definitely, not only from a South African and African point of view, but from a global point of view, become a main player when it comes to this kind of technology. So when my conversations with clients start on the topic of AI and robotics, because it's kind of a sexy topic. It's fairly easy to get a client meeting. Almost every organization are looking at some sort of an AI strategy. Some of them do it because they fear missing out. Some of them do it because the big boss said you better do it, which I call like a tick box exercise. And some of them do it for the right reasons. And that's one of the key things I want to land today in the 6 minutes that I have, is make sure that you are embarking on this automation and AI journey for the right reasons. Because right now, AI and the related technologies, machine learning and the like, might not be the answer to your business problems yet. So don't just jump on that bandwagon. What I often see with clients is they've gone to some sort of a seminar, or they read the Gartner or the Deloitte or IBM reports, and those are very valuable. I worked for a bank where one of our big technology providers would annually fly our chief information officer to Silicon Valley to meet with Google and Facebook and Alibaba and Uber. And this is now a 110-year-old bank, 60,000 people, very federated, old ways of working. And they almost then want to slap this Google way of working on top of the organization, and it's almost always a failure. One of the key things I want to talk about today is, as I've already alluded to, make sure that your drive and your journey toward automation, intelligent automation, and I'll clarify now what that is, and artificial intelligence, that it is primarily a business-driven initiative and not primarily a technology-driven initiative. Yes, you're going to greatly rely on your IT team or on your IT vendors to help you on this journey. But don't let and I always say they better forgive me, don't let the so-called propeller heads, the very technical people, drive your strategy. Because remember that your strategy needs to speak about the business problems that you are solving for. We live in exciting times in South Africa. Now, a lot of the societal and the economic issues we are facing, and with this COVID epidemic, it's opened a lot of doors for automation if we do it right. Think, for instance, of the COVID vaccine rollout. That is all about process and process automation. How well government and private sector will get it right, we still are yet to see. But think of phoning government. Think of, even if you want to renew your car license, the process is often broken. You call and it's the wrong number, or you just wait forever. And finally, when you get there, you stand in a queue and you don't have any sight of when you will receive the documents. And it's not digital, they post it to you and so forth. So I think if we can fix not only our own business automation process problems, but if we can also do it as a society, there will be great benefit to us. Think of what we can do for people in rural areas, for instance, and others. There's a lot we can do, and this is a topic I'm very passionate about, not just the technology itself, but what we can do for society. I've got 1 minute left, and I can't believe it's going so quickly. Don't listen to all the noise about technology, all the webinars and learn from it. But for your own business, make sure you do the right thing. The first thing is, does it align to your business strategy? Are you taking people on the journey with you? So change management, target operating model, those things are important. We live in a society with a lot of unemployment. Some of us work in industries that's very unionized. So the moment we start talking about automation, especially robotic process automation, there's a lot of fear of job losses and a lot of pushback. Partner with the right vendors. Make sure your data is in place. And I'm going to end off with this quickly. So just the journey is I've got process optimization to make sure your processes are documented and understood, and you understand where you can improve your processes. Then we can look at automating those processes, and there are various automation platforms, robotic process automation, Microsoft Power Automate. And then we can get to intelligent automation. And that's really where AI and machine learning are working alongside your processes for optimal efficiency. I'm going to end now. My time is over. Remember this, it should be business driven, not technology driven, and we can do good to society by using this technology. Neville, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Anne. That's impressive. I was 6 minutes. Wow. Okay.
Went too quick.
No, that was great. There are a couple of questions that I've written down, but I'm going to keep them for a while, and then we're going to get back to Johan in a minute, or at the end of the next introduction. So, Cobus van der Westhuizen, Cobus van der Westhuizen is the founder of Genie AI and Analytics. I think you've founded more companies than that, Cobus. But you describe yourself as a serial entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in business process outsourcing, analytics, and you've focused globally. Before starting Genie, you held executive positions in several BPO companies, including PRC in the US, CCN in South Africa, and you were the country head for Aegis in South Africa. And Cobus, I know you've been involved in this industry for many years and have had a great impact, and specifically in the last couple of years with your Genie AI analytics initiatives. I think you've proven that South Africa can step into this world stage, with products that make a difference, that are practical, and that support business in them achieving their goals. So with that, Cobus, I'd like to hand over to you, and then if you just spend the next 6 minutes and giving your insights and your views on AI. Thank you, Cobus.
Great, Neville. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity today, and also all the attendees for making the time and coming to listen to us. I hope you get something out of this. I do see now for the first time that I need to update my profile picture. It's certainly not that I'm that old. I think I've just got a lot of mileage on. But thanks for that introduction. I'm Cobus van der Westhuizen. I'm the founder of Genie Analytics and AI. you know, as Jan was saying, he was speaking more broadly about AI. What Genie does is really more point solutions. In other words, we leverage AI in our platforms. So we're not a company that develop AI models for anything. That's why we're not in autonomous vehicles and sending rockets to the moon and so on. We focus on customer engagement platforms specific to the customer experience space. So that's where we come from. You know, I've got sort of over 20 years experience in this industry, coming from the BPO and contact center side. And really the reason why we started this in 2013, and we're now 8 years into this, is at the time, a couple of us sat around a table with a glass of red wine. It was actually a bottle of red wine. And we said, imagine if you can develop a platform that is proactive, a platform that can start predicting customer behaviors instead of just being on the back foot all the time. Because in the BPO space, we were pretty much on the back foot all the time. We had MIS systems that will tell you what has happened, but we wanted something that can tell us what's going to happen in future and what can we do about it. And that's really how Genie started out at that stage. We only did, for the first 3 years, we only did analytics platforms, which was the analytical QA and the interaction analytics. There were no AI involved in any of the platforms or products at the time. It's only really the last 5 years that we researched heavily into the machine learning and AI platforms. And all we really wanted to do was to create a platform that can predict consumer or customer behaviors. In other words, can we predict that a customer is going to churn, and can we then do something about it? Can we predict that a customer is going to need service, and can we push out proactive service? And the same with collections, and the same with sales. So we really focused on embedding AI in the platforms. So really today, Genie provides analytical QA platforms. We do deep analytical platforms for call centers, and we do speech analytics on the one hand, and on the AI and predict side, we're doing customer churn prediction and engagement. We do customer sales prediction and propensity prediction and engagement, collections and retention, really. And that's really what we're focusing on at this point in time. I must say that over the last 8 years, we did a lot of R&D. We got a lot wrong. We probably struggled for the first 2 years of that, put a lot of money, time and effort into this, couldn't get it right. But what I can say today is that I've got bullet holes in a t-shirt, and we at least know how not to try and do AI associated with it. But the journey has been very interesting, and it's only really when we started augmenting our teams and we started collaborating with a company called Ecosystem AI, and all their very clever people and PhDs and computational social scientists, that we actually got it right. And I think the lesson that I've learned from an entrepreneur at that stage, that I'm sort of taking forward, is collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. I think AI and ML in our world in future is going to only be successful if people collaborate, think, try something, fail, try again, and just absolutely keep at it. And really just the focus, the focus of the whole company is to really augment customer experience, augment service, sales, collections, and customer retention. So that's really all we do. We focus on that. It is starting to get some nice gravitas in the market. And the question was asked, can South Africa compete or collaborate at least? Absolutely, I think we can. And the reason for that is currently we have about 30 clients, enterprise clients that we do work for, plus some international. We've got 3 BPO customers internationally that we're collaborating with, 2 large enterprises in the US, and even an Indian AI company that we're partnering with to develop these platforms. So I think we're starting slowly but surely to make an impact on the international stage as well. And believe it or not, Neville, I think my 6 minutes is up, and I have actually stuck to it. I've got a whole lot more to say, but I'll respect your time limitations. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cobus. And you've mentioned quite a few interesting things there, certainly around, the progression of the different technologies and that practical approach that Johan spoke about. So we'll get to some of these. I'm also interested in the more advanced side and how we compete. But before we get into those, I'd like to move on to the next panel member, Ryan Falkenberg, who's the co-CEO of Clever, a Stellenbosch-based AI startup. One thing I know, and I can vouch for this, is that Ryan believes AI is about embracing technology that frees people from mechanistic compliance thinking to better exploit the more human traits of creating and communicating. Now, Ryan and his brother Dane are serial entrepreneurs, and I've had a look at these companies that you've built in the past, Ryan, and it definitely reflects your value of the human, of the benefits of having people skilled and trained but mainly empowered. Excited to hear what you are going to introduce us to. And so over to you, Ryan.
Thanks so much, Neville. And hi, everyone. Absolute honor and delight to be with you. So we are, I suppose, not really a startup anymore. We've been in the game 10 years. Our fascination and my journey has really been, within the contact centers, looking at how do we turn our people into a primary asset. We are competing with many countries globally who have low cost structures, different education systems. And so one of the problem statement I was fascinated in solving was how do we unlock our human capital in a way that truly differentiates and puts us ahead of the competition? And in the contact center space, one of the things I found interesting was that we were using people really as replication engines. What we do is we ultimately code brains. Our code is captured in training materials, in process guides, in product manuals, in system manuals. And what we do is we train the agents to replicate our sales or support formulas. So when a call comes in, they need to say certain things. If the customer answers this, they need to say the following. Based on certain outcomes, they need to process the system. So actually, there's very little for them to add value other than replication. And what I found interesting was that many of our contact center agents found it extremely difficult to learn all of the code they needed to apply and excel in. So what tends to happen is we put you on training. After a few weeks, you've forgotten most of it, but the calls that you receive a lot are the ones that almost embed in your brain, and the ones that you get infrequently, you then end up second-tiering out of there. And then we start using IVRs to find the brain that can answer the question. So we narrowed down the repertoire of our staff into very specific knowledge areas, and really trap them in those knowledge areas. And they, again, just become replication engines, and their humanity is lost. And so what I've started to ask questions is, could we not do this differently? Could we not, instead of using the human brain to replicate, could we not use digital brains to do this? And so we started to research how to do that. And Quibus is really tackled the one aspect of digital brains, which are predictive brains. They use data to work out patterns, and then they can make predictions around customer intent, etc. We were interested in another form of brain, because actually the agents that we deal with, their job is in navigating customer engagement conversational journeys. It's very prescribed. The rules are the rules. And the journey, it's a bit like a GPS. The roads are the roads. You can just change your routes depending on context. So when we looked at how globally we were building these digital brains, most organizations were still trying to capture this logic in knowledge bases, which is really like a one-dimensional view of the world. And knowledge bases are terrible because they always can't capture the exception case. And no agent, irrespective of how smart you make the knowledge system, is really going to thrive on trying to read a document, upgrade their brain while they're talking to a customer. And so we also then looked at the decision tree or scripting tools out there, and really they also are terrible because they're so rigid and they don't reflect where the customer goes. So agents just kept getting trapped in it. And so what we find interesting is a lot of the conversational support we give agents, in fact, works against them. And so they are stressed. They're worrying about QA. They're worrying about getting it wrong. And so in a way, they become almost a risk mitigation for us. We spend QA trying to mitigate our risk of our agents, and that churn, etc., is challenging. So we then worked out a very different way of building or capturing digital expertise. We stopped asking SMEs how they think and trying to visualize their brains. We started asking them what are the data points they use. And we fundamentally flipped the model in building and capturing a digital expert that we could, for example, in a bank, build a digital service expert that could answer any service engagement call within a couple of months. But what is powerful about these digital experts is that they hook into the operational systems of the agent. So they're almost like a GPS navigating you live. They're working on the real data on the system so that they're contextualizing immediately to the customer. They're asking the right questions at the right time, and essentially they guide the agent through the conversation. So the agent doesn't even need to know banking or insurance or telcos. That's not their job. Their job is to be brilliant at customer engagement experience. They are exceptional at the psychology of the conversation, not the content of the conversation. Digital experts can now handle the content of the conversation, and robotic process automation, or what we call digital workers, can then do the system work for them. So we now can build a digital workforce that can augment staff, a digital expert that can handle the front office logic live, digital workers, and there are many of them that can do the system stuff. And suddenly an agent can have one screen, all the noise is gone, and they can focus on being brilliant in conversations. And what we realized is that's really the differentiator in South African BPO worlds, is that if we can be the best at leveraging our people who are multicultural, multilingual, have very good EQs, are very, very good with humor, empathy, warmth, etc. That's what we are better at than people in Philippines and India, etc. And rather build a digital workforce that can handle all of the stuff they get wrong. We could, in fact, become a powerhouse in the BPO world, in that people will come to South Africa for the people. And we could augment them with the digital workforce to get the stuff right. So that's what we do, and that's our passion. And we believe South Africa is in a very, very powerful place if we can embrace digital workers to, in fact, become a leader in the contact center industry. Thanks, Daniel.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ryan. That was really powerful. And lots of points that I've taken down on that. But at this, and so now we're going to move on into the next section, which I think we're just going to, we're going to stop sharing the slides. If I can just ask the panel members to join me, and then we're going to open up this discussion. I see there's a couple of questions in the Q&A, so please keep them flowing. Johan, I'm impressed that you can multitask and get to answering all those. That's great. And I'm sure we can add to these. But how I want to just take us into the next section, which will be about just short of 20 minutes, is for us to just get into some of the detail that you've touched on. Now, the first one, just to keep it light, is Johan, you mentioned that you believe that South Africa can be competitive when compared to, some of the more traditional outsourced locations. Can you just get us going and talk about that from your perspective, and how competent do you think we are in being able to deliver the level of services required and still be competitive?
Neville, there are a number of local organizations that's doing outsourcing work to especially Europe and North America. And they are very competitive, firstly from a commercial point of view, I think secondly from a cultural alignment and English speaking point of view, and they are delivering great service. But it's not enough. I think there's so many more things that we can do. The things that's impacting it is the lack of skills or education in our larger population, or call it the digital skills that we need. Also the business acumen and the language skills that we need, for instance, for offshore call centers. And I think there's also fingers to be pointed at government and government legislation. I think we can do a better job in marketing South Africa to the rest of the world. We can definitely do a great job, but it's world class. But to really get 10, 20, 30,000 South Africans, especially people in rural areas, into those kind of jobs is going to be a huge effort. And I think government and civil society and business really needs to do better to get that right.
It's quite interesting. You mentioned Market South Africa. If I can just take a quick detour and just talk about how Bethesda in the last 3 years has managed to raise the awareness of South Africa as a world-class destination for BPO, where last year it was recognized as the second best destination for BPO globally. And I think that's not just testament to what Bethesda has done, but I think that's testament to the industry coming together, government coming together, and all these parties coming together around a common goal of positioning South Africa in the light of delivering world-class BPO. And so specifically from a digital perspective, I believe a similar initiative is required, where as an industry, the digital industry in South Africa needs to come together around, initiatives like the one that Bethesda is driving with government and position South Africa in that light. And then skills. I mean, we had a session, the first session of this webinar series was around skills and around skills development. And I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in making sure that we can create the journeys for skills to be developed, but also for those skills to be relevant to the market, relevant to where the opportunities are. And that's work that we've got to do to get that right. Now, Kobus, when you were talking, you mentioned, the progression of, how you started off with analytics. And I think sometimes we underestimate that sometimes simple is more, less is more. I think people sometimes refer to it that way. And I often look at the work that you're doing, and some of the basic, and I don't want to call it basic because it's not, but I mean some of the entry level capabilities that you provide have got significant early gains, or provide significant early gains to organizations that use it and use it powerfully. And so when you talk about AI, you're almost having to step back and say, okay, so AI is great in and of itself, but sometimes it's these basic problems that we can solve that have the biggest business impact. And is that your finding as well when you look at the range of products that you've created and how you've been successful in positioning those into business?
Absolutely, Neville. I mean, AI and the machine learning platform sort of came later, and we're putting a lot of emphasis on that now that we have the right partnerships in place. But yes, the deep analytics platform that we developed in the early days was not AI driven or machine learning driven at all. It was really quite born from the pain points, I guess, in the market. You know, when we ran 2,500 seat call centers, you had platforms that will tell you what's happening in call arrival patterns, and so MIS systems, and the MIS systems all told you what just happened. Now, the problem with knowing what just happened, you sit there, you look at it and you say, now what can I do about it? And we focus on building a platform that asks why. So why did that happen? Why was my calls not resolved first time? Was it agent related? Was it business related? Was it customer related? Why do I have repeat calls? Was it agent related, business related? So those deeper insights became very powerful. And when I talk about our 30 customers that we have, most of those are on those platforms. And started earlier. And then the interesting thing is that is very transformational. So when you start getting those deep analytics, customer sentiment, why are my customers unhappy? You then take those insights, you go and fix it, and you go and transform it. And that's how you actually claw back into improving customer service, sales, retention, and collections, because that analytical platform goes across those business units. Interesting enough, though, when we started building the AI platforms, remember, an AI platform also needs training data. So what we started realizing is all the customer conversations that we tag and analyze to create the deep insights those tag conversations became the training data for the AI platforms. And now we didn't think at the time that it is going to work out that way, but it actually worked out that way. And then lately we added the sort of speech analytics to our products as well. Now, we do not develop the speech analytics. We work with industry speech analytics like Colby and Coalminer out there. But when we do the speech analytics for customers, we then take those outputs and tag data, and that will also feed the AI product. So although the products in isolation has their different functions to fulfill, you actually use the outputs as a whole. It can also feed the AI product. But absolutely, you're absolutely right. A lot of, people keep asking me, what is CX? What is CX? How do I improve service? I say to him, I'll tell you what, how simple it is. Answer the customer's query, whether it's voice or chat or something, within a reasonable time. Resolve his issue within a reasonable time, hopefully first time you contact you, and make him feel good while you're doing it. That's CX. And a lot of people are actually over gearing and over engineering and overthinking this thing. And that is what we need to focus on. So that is really where those platforms, they're still relevant today, because with our different languages, vernacular languages and so on, some of the larger international speech analytics platforms struggle with. That's why, the local platforms that can do multiple languages, South African languages like Colby or humans, are still very popular in deep analytics.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Kobus. Ryan, you made some very pointed comments and statements, and one of them was you said focus on being brilliant. And I thought that was brilliant. Sorry for the pun, but I thought that was just sort of wrapped up in terms of, one of the questions that I see has come through is about, does AI mean that it impacts on jobs, and work? The other one that I think if you can maybe just reiterate, your view on, how do you see AI enhancing jobs and creating more jobs? And then the other one that I see the question, which I think you can answer specifically, is around do we consider AI as part of RPA? And what is that role? If RPA is a robotic process, then how does AI enhance that, and how does it potentially integrate into, you know, your suggestion that actually AI creates brilliant interactions with more jobs and more people? So if you can maybe just talk into those areas.
Sure. So I think this concern about jobs is real and understandable. And I do believe that there is going to be a change in the type of work that's being done. So in the transactional space, where I'm calling in to ask an agent to essentially execute a decision I've made, I just simply can't execute my own outcome. I need them to be the system jockey for me, update my address, move this from there to there, etc. That's a transactional engagement. I believe that digital workforces are essentially going to replace human agents in that work, because the agent is not really adding any value. They are simply a worker. They are doing my bidding. But what we're starting to find is that the world is quite complicated. I can look on the internet and see a lot of information, but banking is complicated. Insurance is complicated. Telcos are complicated. There's so many data bundles and variations. Utilities is complicated. I don't understand. My Wi-Fi is not working. Everything. It's a lot more complicated. So what we're starting to find is contact centers are not just the doers. They're actually moving to an advisory role. They are going to service for me and help me in the decision making, not just the action taking. So I will phone a contact center for guidance to say which data bundle is best for me. You know, what's wrong with my bill? I have bill shock. So just can you explain that? So in other words, I'm looking at the agent as somebody who is an expert and can advise me on my own decision making. Once that decision is being made, the execution component can then be triggered and automated. So what we're starting to find is that there's an increased movement in terms of job potential in the advisory space, almost where we were second tiering. And what we tend to find in that space is that it is highly contextual. Every customer situation is different. The rules are complicated. The data points are explosive. And so it's extremely difficult for us to train and retain experts in this field who want to stay as contact center agents, because they are very, very good at, for example, complex financial advisory services. They will go and seek another job. But what we can do is we can now build digital experts to augment them. And actually, the role of a contact center agent is that they are exceptional, again, at customer engagement. They are psychologists. They study the psychology of an engagement. They are nuanced. They are, again, multicultural, multilingual. So they are exceptionally good at human engagement, and they can be augmented by the digital intelligence to get to the right decisions and to trigger the right actions. I don't believe that's going to be their role. Their role is the customer experience role. And I, as a customer, may prefer digital engagement. I may prefer a digital interface, or I may prefer the human warmth interface. I believe we have the opportunity to grow jobs because we are exceptionally good at warmth. You know, when I phone a contact center and I land up in some of these other countries, I don't get warmth. I just get a robotic conversation with somebody. When I phone South African contact centers, I get warmth. What I often do get is frustration that they don't know what to do or solve my problem. But man, oh man, do I get human warmth. Now, if we can combine digital intelligence with human warmth, we have a massive differentiator here. Now, in terms of the automation space, you know, robotics and automation, all we're doing really is we are replicating. The processes are known, the system stuff is known. It's the deciding and the doing that are based by rules. And we're just using digital workers and digital experts to do that for us. So it is a form of AI in the sense it is decision-making or brain replication, but it's not self-learning. When you bring in the machine learning component, what it's trying to do is to learn and optimize off patterns. Now, that's where intelligent automation, to Johan's point, comes, is that there's almost a virtual circle of replication, learning, and enhancement. So we can start getting dynamic process enhancement or agile processing. And certainly that's the nirvana. But right now, in today's world, most of our contact centers just need replication. We need efficiencies so that we don't have people doing it. And then we need effectiveness, and we need the right answers. To Cobus's point, we need contextually the right answers, triggering the right actions with human warmth wrapped around it. And that's, I believe, why we should really embrace digital workforces, is not see them as a threat, is that they will liberate our very anxious young contact center agents who are terrified of making a mistake, who are sitting there. It's not fun, with huge pressure calls, somebody just watching me, and all I worry about is screwing this thing up. Imagine we could just say, you're not going to screw it up. It's like giving an Uber driver the ability to work with their GPS and say, I'm going to send you into a city you've never been to. Don't worry about it. You won't get lost. Trust your navigator. Focus on the road. And so suddenly they can start navigating into calls they've never done before, because they're not worrying about it. Their job isn't to know the roads. Their job is to worry about the customer experience. So to summarize, I do believe artificial intelligence and robotics, the combinations, will have a liberating impact on our human workforce. And just think, we don't have to train people nearly as much. We can have them upskilled and running on. They can be universal agents within a matter of days rather than weeks. Our workforce management complexity changes. We're not having to try and work out which calls are coming in and which brain do we need to marry, because everyone can take every call. So suddenly we've got this very agile human resource pool that is really a customer engagement specialist layer rather than a kind of a replication of logic layer. And therein lies a massive opportunity for South Africa.
Oh, that's great. Wow. So one quote came to mind, and it's just, if you could imagine, if you could say to a business, or if you could say to an agent, or if you could say to a call center manager, how would you approach your day if you knew you couldn't fail? How would you answer that call if you knew you couldn't fail? Because there's going to be that crutch, that support mechanism, that environment that's going to say, we'll catch you, I've got you. And I think that is just a great way to look at AI and look at these advanced technologies, whatever area they fall in, is that they're a support mechanism for greatness. They're a support mechanism for the next level of service. And I just want to just briefly talk to the BPOs that are on this, that are looking to, how do you enter into this new digital world? And I think there's a number of things. I mean, firstly, there's the productivity gains and the efficiency gains within your operation that AI and these technologies can assist in, and having insights into data. The second area is how you start passing these on to your clients and how they start benefiting from these services that are now enhanced and enriched. But I think the most important is, what are those next level of services that you still haven't contracted your clients at? Adding value into their business, into adding value to what they're achieving in their businesses. I think that's the exciting part. And those are things that we will talk about in the future, as to what are the next generation of services that AI can bring, where as a provider of these services, we can add value to businesses wherever they are in the world, just because of our great people, as you've highlighted, Johan, the great approach that that South Africa has in solving problems and in positioning itself as a leader in this space. And then Cobus, from your side, just the innovation and the approach that this country just continues to take in terms of how we develop things, how we don't take things on face value, but we absolutely just are creative as a people. And so I think that's just, great. Now, I don't know if, I think what I want to quickly do, we've literally got about 2 minutes left before I need to just close out. But if each one of you can just make a closing statement, then that'll be great. And I'm gonna start with you, Ryan, if you can just maybe one statement, and then we'll move around.
I think in many of your environments, you are bound through your technology reality. You've got your customer, your CRMs, you've got all the technology, and part of your challenge is you can't just pull it all out and start again that easily. So one of the things to look out for is the digital workforces currently, they operate on your existing infrastructure. They can work on your existing systems with your existing data, hooking into it, so that it's not a matter of, I now have to change systems in order to get a digital workforce. Your digital workforce, like your human workforce, works on your existing infrastructure. And I think it's worth having a look at just the potential of that, because you can get massive gains without having to completely rewire your environment.
Kobus?
Yeah, thanks, Neville. I would basically just, if you talk about AI for CX, for instance, in our environment, it is here. That's, it's coming in a big way, but we have to slow it down a bit and make sure we get it right. We cannot destroy customer experience or, the whole customer environment and sentiment with AI or platforms by deploying it wrong or for the wrong reasons. And I think that is going to be the critical success factor for AI, is to make sure that you get it right and for the right reasons, and overlay and always benchmark your customer impact, what it has on your customer experience. I think we have to be absolutely sure about that. Even where it helps humans, and where it's even a predictive environment to get on the front foot, let's make sure that we're doing it slowly and right. Then we'll be fine.
Perfect. Johan, 30 seconds.
Okay, I think it's good that we demystify this technology. It's not the exclusive domain of Google and Uber, or even our big local banks and telcos. Every business of every size, if you do it in the right way with the right partners, can use this technology to become more profitable, to increase your market share. So it's don't fear it. That's the biggest thing for me, is don't fear it. It can help us if we do it right.
Great, thank you. So with that, I'd like to thank Ryan, Johan, Kobus. Thank you so much for attending this webinar with me. I really appreciate it. I think we've left more questions but we have answered some critical areas. I think basically we've opened the door and we've exposed the opportunity, and the opportunity is huge. I just want to announce today that we'll be going forward with some very specialized member-only events. So look out for that in the next few weeks. And those are going to be events where I'll be having one of our panel members, or all of them, on different occasions, but that will be a member-only event, and then we'll spend more time going into more of the detail and just uncovering more of what I consider to be a huge opportunity. And then finally, just from a Bethesda membership, if there's anything that any of you on the call would like to know about membership, please reach out to us. You can contact myself or I'll just quickly, if there's time, and I know we're literally out of time, but I will just flight the, and hopefully you can see these, but these are some of the contacts that you can reach out to. So if you want to just take a quick screenshot of that, then I'd like to just thank everyone for attending. The recording will be made available shortly after this call. Please reach out to us if there are any additional questions. Thank you to those who did ask questions on the session, and then we'll meet next month again for the next session, which I have an idea is going to be around compliance. So look forward to that, and then we'll speak soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.